right. Hello and welcome to Flourish in the Foreign on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch, wherever you are joining us. I am the host of the podcast and of this here channel. I'm Christine Job. If you are new to Flourish in the Foreign, let me tell you about it. Flourish in the Foreign is a weekly podcast that elevates and affirms the voices and stories of Black women living and thriving abroad while also exploring living abroad as a pathway to wellness. Now, an important aspect of wellness, of course, is professional wellness and financial wellness because, you know, you can't really be that well if the finances aren't together. And today, I actually have a wonderful guest. She has been a past podcast guest. So if you haven't checked out her episode, make sure you do so. I have the lovely Itiah Thomas, and we're going to talk about that professional wellness and that financial wellness today because it is so, so important. So, welcome, Itiah. How are you?
Thank you. I'm really well, and I'm super stoked to be here today with you. So, thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. So let's get right into it. For those of you who are watching and you have not listened to Itia's episode, you really need to because, when I was introduced to Itia and I heard her story, I was like, wow, this is a woman on a mission and she gets the damn thing done. And I was just very, very impressed from the very get go. So, Itia, let's actually start from the very beginning from when you were in the States, because you are American. What kind of work were you doing in the States?
Yeah, so I was in a commercial construction project management. So, I was managing the construction of offices, biopharmaceutical plants, healthcare facilities, mostly hospitals. So, yeah, heavy tech kind of stuff for about 7 or 8 years while I was in the States. And I did that both on the East Coast in the DC area and in California in San Francisco.
And tell us what led you to want to move abroad. And if you guys don't know, she's in Australia. So, what made you want to, leave the US and settle in Australia?
Yeah. So um, for me, in terms of leaving the US, I had the travel bug from quite a young age, from about 15, and in terms of international travel. And it was just like not satiated by all of the trips that I was doing. I tried to go on more and more and for longer periods of time. And I was just in awe with everything that I saw in the world each time that I went, experiences that I had, just that awakening and that excitement and that buzz. And I just didn't feel alive in the same way whenever I came home. And I had I had the job, I had the boyfriend at the time, a car, money, all that was like in place, and still I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And so I was uh, turning 30 and going through like quarter life crisis period somewhere just before then as well, where I was trying to figure out like what am I meant to do, like what's going on with work, all that jazz. Like, so everything was just really in flux. And I felt like in order to be able to figure some of that stuff out in terms of career, in terms of just feeling like I was in a place where I was super excited about where I was living, um, and having all those pieces together, like I just felt like I wasn't able to dip out and to figure that out while I was still in the States. Like I actually felt like I needed to separate myself for a bit. So when I left, actually, I was going on I left knowing that I was likely not coming back, but I did not know where I was going. So I did not necessarily, like Australia was top of mind, but I did not know for sure that I was going to Australia. What I did know is that I was on a search for my new home. So I did go on an 8 month sabbatical, traveling about like 23 or so countries internationally for 8 months solo. And for me, just seeing if I felt as strongly as I did when I visited Sydney 2 years prior for just 3 days. And for me, I found many places that I was interested in, even in Barcelona, where you are, was probably my third choice, and the Netherlands, basically in Amsterdam was my second choice, but still Australia, I just felt really comfortable there from my first visit. And it reminded me a lot of San Francisco where I was last living. So that felt pretty seamless for me. I enjoyed the weather, the vibe, um, the neighborhoods I visited. Like it all spoke to me so soon. And so I was like, man, I have to check this out. So I at least had a 1 year working holiday visa, and that turned into more. And now it's been 5 years later, and almost a dual citizen. So yeah.
Yes, I I love your story. And I love the fact that you slipped in you're almost a dual citizen because that's where we're going. So I love your story. Again, I'm gonna keep on plugging. You have to listen to her episode because I think it is so great. But I want you to talk about, what was your game plan for work when you landed
Yeah.
in Australia and kind of what happened from that point?
Yeah, look, I'd love to tell you there was a game plan, and so when I, and to be honest with you, the reason why I was able to have that flexibility was that I saved like so much. Like I just really, really knew that that was going to be a basis for me before I left the States because when I moved over to Australia, I left. I went on a sabbatical when I left the States. So I did leave a safety net in case things, didn't work out that after I was traveling. So that was like, yeah, pretty much the only safety net that I left in the States. But once I got here and got settled in, it was a month in, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm just going to really try hard to make this work. So initially, actually, I was starting my own company when I first got here, and was going to use that as one of the routes to be able to self sponsor for a visa to be able to stay. And I, lo and behold, ended up changing the rules like pretty much the month that I got there, that was no longer going to be an option. And so I was like, right, okay, okay. Luckily, I thought about some other things, other options, which I highly suggest if you're moving abroad to know about a couple of visa options for you, not just one. And so I knew that being a project manager in construction was on the skilled migrants list for Australia, and in that way, because they have a need for someone in that occupation, it's an easier route to be able to find companies who want to be able to sponsor under that visa class of a skilled migrant. So for me, I started kind of interviewing back in the realm of construction and was doing on the kind of the contractor side again. And once I found out that they were like pretty much always working Saturdays, I was like, that does not align with my lifestyle goals. So, um, but like, so at first once I made the pivot to try like the owner's side, which is something I was always so interested in the States, I made connections with recruiters. I was on job boards and getting kind of alerts into me. I was making connections one on one with people, but really that job actually came through with in the recruiter scene. So that was really I paid attention to what recruiters or which recruiters were posting the most for that um, for the industry, and basically contacted them directly and said not only just for the role that they had, like were there any other roles that they could consider putting me forward for. And it's so funny because one of them they both were interested, I guess, in putting me together for the same company, but only one of them actually did because they were concerned that the one who didn't was concerned that that company wouldn't sponsor. Like they had historically not sponsored people, so she didn't even put me forward to them. And the other person did, right? But I didn't know that this was happening, right? And so yeah, I ended up being that. And once again, like that company actually initially was not sponsoring anyone. And they were actually only offering me a 6-month contract at the start. And I basically would have needed to get sponsorship, not a 6-month contract, in order to be able to stay in the country. So that was when the negotiation game started, and I was able to win them over to a full time contract.
I love this story because I think that for those of you watching either live, hello, or later, a lot of people will tell you, and myself included, will be like, getting companies to necessarily sponsor you if you're not necessarily in the company already is hard because it's not something that is you hear there's an abundance of stories. And so that's why I think your story is so unique. I think your approach is so unique. I mean, there's so many people that want to go abroad, and they want to go abroad in their profession. I have interviewed enough people. I've interviewed enough traditionally educated educators who are sick and tired of people being like, "Go abroad, you could just teach," and they're like, "No, you can't." So they're like, "You need to like." There's a big pushback from them. They're being like, "You guys need to stay in your career," and a lot of people feel like they just can't. And I think your story showcases like, "Hey, I went abroad. I wanted to sponsor myself as an entrepreneur. That didn't work out because immigration, and if y'all are watching, immigration is just it's just it's just a universal thing where it's just like it's always some nonsense. So then she pivoted and decided, look, I'm not, I may be down, but I'm not out. And I'm going to get my hustle on, and I'm going to go back into my industry because I want to stay. Then being able to not only make the connections with the headhunters, the recruiters, but getting them to really, place you in a position that you want. And you, like you said, making the assessment saying, hey, I don't want to be on this aspect of the this career. I want to be on this side because I still care about my wellness, and I don't want to work Saturdays. And then being able to say, hey, y'all need to sponsor me. And saying it with your chest and being confident and to be able to negotiate a great salary and sponsorship. Like that is incredible. Being able to get someone to sponsor you and that leading you down the road of residency and then now citizenship. Like, I just feel like you are amazing. And I feel like people are so they're because people get so they get just so down and they're just like, I just don't know how to do it. And what I think is, and this is what I want your opinion on, a lot of people are going about trying to find a job abroad, and it's not necessarily about their effort because they are putting out a lot of effort, but it's not strategic. And I
Mm.
think what you have demonstrated is the power of strategic effort. And if you have that strategic effort and obviously are confident in the work, you can make it happen for yourself. And so I would really love to hear more about the strategies you employed, but also everyone who's watching. Itiah has taken these strategies and she has packaged them into this incredible career upgrade program. She's walked me through it. As you guys hear, I'm very excited just about her. And I'm like, this is exactly what's missing because there's too many people on Facebook complaining or giving bad advice, or like not serious, right? So let's get into your strategies and let's get into how you decided to package those strategies into the career upgrade.
Sure, sure. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you so much. Um, Look, like, let's just first, to answer the first part of that is, I'll just tell you a little bit more about what that negotiation was like in terms of the strategy behind that. Because, um, look, like I said, I was able to negotiate like a higher senior. I was basically had more seniority, more money, and sponsorship, right? So one, I was really clear about the salary like I wanted to make, and did research about that industry and knew like kind of what I could command for my experience in it. Um, I took the negotiation into my hands. I did not leave that with the recruiter to be able to do, because they were, already shaking their boots to put me in forward, forward in the first place. And so I didn't have confidence personally in them to be able to negotiate the salary that I wanted and the package that I wanted um, for the being able to be sponsored. And so I, yeah, like asked to basically handle that myself. And they would only win great, have a greater win, because if I got more money, then they would get more money, right? And I was actually at that point negotiating between two companies. So there was a little bit of a, hello, this company is giving this, like, a little bit of a back and forth with that. But then also it was about crafting the story too, because like did not have Australian experience. And, a lot of companies were already starting to try to shut me out because of that. And so what I really had to show is that I did have that international experience that come from the US that wasn't, something to snicker at, right? Like it was still a leading a country with leading construction background in that hospital field. And I had a deep understanding of construction because right now I'm on the owner side. So they want you to be able to, represent the owner. And that at that time, I'm actually not in that career anymore, but we'll talk about that later. And so I was like, I was able to have that deeper understanding of construction, not just pushing paper around. And as the owner's rep was able to ask those deeper questions and understand what was going on in the field. And so that being able to package that up and show that I did have client side experience as well. And so I had to tell a different part of my story of how I was doing that. So, and then I was able to, when I transitioned, so I transitioned into user experience design while here in Australia and moved to another Australian city while doing that. That was hectic. And to try to build a network all over again in a new industry, in a new city, was also a very intentional space. And so there also, I was able to negotiate an extra. So in that first role, I was able to actually negotiate an extra $10,000 from what they had were going to offer, as well as that sponsorship. But then the UX design role, the first one I got was $15,000 under my minimum, and I was like, that's not going to work. So I kind of held out a bit more, ended up getting that 15. So I got over my asking price and basically got 15,000 more than what the average into like entry level salary would have been for coming in UX design. And then in 6 months later, got an additional 15K over that, right? So the way I was able to tell the story from that, because I was coming from construction, right? And so I was able to have to craft that story of being like, look, I have this project management skill. Like I can be autonomous, but also working teams. I can lead teams. In fact, I've been able to have all these client-facing roles, and now I'm on a consultancy, right? So it was just basically able to show how that would be transferable and beneficial for them. So that's some of the behind the scenes about both of those negotiations. In terms of how I've been able to package that together to create the career upgrade course, is that first of all, I was seeing like at first I was going to create a course about helping people move abroad, because that was what a lot of people had been asking me about, like how are you able to do that? And then when I really paid attention to what was going on in Facebook groups that I was in, and why is it that what was holding people back, it was their not being so sure about how to be able to financially support themselves abroad, and do that with a job for people who aren't ready yet to be entrepreneurs, right? And so I was like, okay, well then, like let me go back in my life and figure out like how did I really do this, right? And let's try to put that down. And so for me, that's when I came up with my 5R framework, which is reflect, research, refine, run, and results, right? And so just to break that down, I guess, into what like kind of each quick sentence, I guess, about what each one of those really is that in that reflect phase, it's really starting with looking inward to explore life goals, strengths, and skills. And I really do preface or want to put impact on the strengths and skills that you want to continue using, and not necessarily that you've just become like good at by necessity of your job. So I always tell people, like they're like, oh, I'm great at multitasking. It's like, but do you want to multitask? Like, is that what you actually want to do, or is that what you've been made to do because of the situations you've been in, right? And so in in the next phase of research, it's really that online and offline research building, including in building your network of key people of influence early. I think it's never too early to build, to get on the radar of people who are in positions to be able to tell you about what it takes to succeed in those roles, how to get into it, what's the day-to-day like, and how to and turn them into advocates for you, so that they keep you on their radar, and also help bring you into the hidden job market, which is basically things that you may not be seeing on on job boards, for instance, right? And so in that next refine, it's like displaying yourself in a way that attracts your new career, right? So that could be anything that you need to do with your with upskilling in any way, or any of the assets that you're putting through, whether that be a portfolio, your resume, your LinkedIn, social media, whatever it is, right? How to get that really to the point that it needs to be able to, like I said, attract your new career. In that run phase, it's about creating and executing your plan for searching and applying for jobs. And so that's the interviewing, the like how to actually be more targeted in the job search, how to be, like I said, prepared for the interviews, how to manage rejection, and that comes along with that as well. And then and some of that yeah, basically a lot of that stuff, but that's really where you're like deploying, right? You're actually applying. And then in that last stage of results, it's about landing and stabilizing in a job that's like, now that you're getting offers, reviewing them, picking the best ones for you, being able to do that negotiation, and really about how to be able to be successful in those, especially those first 3 months of your new job, because that's where things get a little as you're trying to just find your feet, right? So really in that program, in my career upgrade program, I'm taking people from not knowing like what they want their career or change to be, or their job change to be. So they're just like open and maybe flailing a little bit to actually going through that full arc, to be able to draw like what's the best role in industry that matches their vision for what an aligned and fulfilled lifestyle looks like, the skills and goals, skills and strengths that they want to continue using, and then how to, there's positioning, right, about that, because I'm all about not starting from the bottom. So overall, right, I'm just, this program is 60 days, and I'm helping particularly aspiring expats. And it's because I just love the spirit of aspiring expats. It's not that the content is not, useful for people who are staying at home, but there's just an extra spirit about someone who's like, that want to do this so that they can help their job support their lifestyle, really. And so and particularly in that kind of millennial Gen Xer, basically above 30, they're unsure about how they can start over professionally to fund their life abroad. I help them to learn a proven process to confidently complete their leap into a new job or career, so they can feel financially secure about their international move, and transition careers with certainty without starting from the bottom. Like I said, I don't really believe in that, but that's about positioning yourself in negotiation, and finding enjoyable work that aligns with how and where they desire to live. So that's what the program is all about.
I love it. I love it. And I agree. I don't believe in starting at the bottom either. And I don't believe in, this whole thing. People just like, just get abroad and just being abroad is it. And I'm like, no, thriving abroad is it. Thriving. Like, why are you going to go abroad to endure and to struggle just to be like, oh, I live in Australia. Oh, I live in Spain. That's not cute. That's not cute. And don't do that. It's not okay. I see we have
Yeah.
some people who are watching. If you have any questions for Itiah, put it in the comments and I'll see them. This is my first time using this kind of live thing, so just rock with us, okay? Rock with us as we're trying to get through it. But I want to go back and I just want to like really put, I don't know, I want to underline this point.
Yeah.
For everyone who's watching, Itiah not only, landed in Australia, had to pivot from the visa that she thought she was going to get to a different visa. She landed a job in her career field and negotiated getting sponsored. And that was the road to her getting residency. She also then went into a completely different career and decided, you know what, this is what I want to do. And yeah, I might be new to this career field in UX and UI design, but I'm not like, I'm not a novice. Like I'm a business person, I know things, and negotiated a salary that was not like this entry level kind of thing because she's not an entry level kind of person. Okay. She has business experience. And because she believed in herself. And knew her value and knew how to negotiate that. She put herself in a position to not only land in a new career field, in a new position with the kind of money that someone with her expertise and her background just requires. So I just want to put a pin in that because a lot of people think like you have to go abroad. If you change your career, you're starting at the bottom. No. Or that you go abroad and you start working and you don't make any money. No, no one, I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know, but I'm glad that you're here at Flourish in the Foreign because we are not about that. We're about thriving abroad. And however that means to you, but let's get real. A lot of us have bills. A lot of us are not independently wealthy because if we were, we would be doing a whole different thing. Hey,
Yes.
if you are, support this podcast. Even if you're not, support this podcast. But like, let's get 100% real. We have visions for how we can live our life, and the vision is not to endure or to struggle. The vision is for us to embrace and be just immersed in a lifestyle that is in alignment with who we know we are, for the vision of our life and who we feel deeply, right? That's why we want to go abroad. We want to be immersed in a different kind of culture, a different kind of lifestyle. But also, if you're not retired or independently wealthy, that's also, I mean, we want to be professionally fulfilled. We want to be able to use our expertise and our brains. We want to be able to express ourselves in that kind of capacity. And we also want to make a great living at it as well. Like these things are not mutually exclusive. And I just love the fact that your story is like a perfect example of how you don't need to compromise. It's just about
Mhm.
being strategic. And I also love the fact that in the career upgrade, you start with going inside and having that
Yeah.
introspective journey, which I think is so critical because I always tell people when they ask me, I want to go abroad, what's the first step? The first step is knowing who you are and what
Mhm.
you want.
Mhm.
Because, like, the first step is not going to Facebook and asking people, where should I move? Like, what country should I move to? No, please
Oh
stop doing that.
God.
That's not it. You know what you need.
Yeah.
You know what's going on in your life that's causing you angst or frustration or you're feeling stagnant. You know. You also know the things that you want, your heart's desires, maybe the things you have been afraid to even speak aloud because you're just not in an environment that's going to be supportive of that. But you know what it is. You know what your values are. And guess
Mm.
what? May not look like what everybody else is doing. It may not be in Mexico and everybody's moving to Mexico. Okay. Like it may not be in Spain. You know, it may not be in Australia. It may be in New Zealand. It may be in Poland. But you have to start with who you are
Mm.
and what is the vision you have for your life. And in every aspect of your life, you have to think about professional, financial, mental, emotional, physical wellness. What does that really look like? And then we proceed with all the other things because, you know, if you don't know who you are or where you're going, nothing's going to feel right. You're just not going to, and you're not going to stumble into that feeling, I feel, because you actually don't know what you're looking for and you haven't made like a stance. You haven't made a
Yeah.
stance of like, this is who I am and this is what I want. So I love that. But I also love because I'm a business strategist, so I like strategy. I like I like measurable measurable goals. I like, you know, tried and true methods that you can, you know, keep on that could be what am I looking for? That can be exercised over and over again. And
Yeah.
that's why when you walked me through the program, I was like, this is it. Because a lot of people think finding a job abroad is like a fairy tale. And it's like, it's not. It is actually a formula, it's a system. It is
Mhm.
maybe it's going to feel different for some of the people because they have not they have not really been strategic about finding work before.
Yeah.
Some of us, we've just kind of gotten by getting a job here or here and never really been strategic and never really stretched and never went out and got it and been like, I'm going to go get this. this is a little
Definitely.
bit, this is a stretch for me, but I'm gonna go get it. Some of us have never felt that, so it's like that may be different, but this is just being strategic. This is just a framework to get you from A to B. One, I think, in the most efficient manner, instead of flailing around on Facebook and Google and applying willy nilly on Indeed and LinkedIn. Like,
Yes.
have a checklist and utilize people who've done this before
Hmm.
and do what
Hmm.
they tell you to do. Go
Yes.
through the system and actually get to where you're trying to go, especially if you're trying to go in a timely manner, right? Like, people are just like, well, I can never go abroad because I can't find a job. Look, if you're wanting to go abroad and you want to go in your career, it is actually, it's way more simple than you think. It's a
Hmm.
system that has to be worked. Hello, but it is, you can get there, but you have to have some sense about you.
Yes.
You have to have some sense, and that's what I enjoy. That's what really I've enjoyed about getting to know you, Itia, listening to you and recording your episode. It's why I would recommend your episode to people a lot when people are like, but I don't know. And what about this? Look, if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor in the medical field, if you are an accountant, whatever it is, guess what? You have some fundamental skills that you can transfer to go abroad.
Sure.
You could possibly, you may need to, like, to be a lawyer, you may need to go to law school for a year and get licensed in a place if you want to practice. But guess what? You don't necessarily have to do it that way. You can always use that skill and flip it into something else abroad. And I think that's why it's so important for people to, one, listen to your episode, watch this video, and really take you up on your offer. Because I'm just like, look, just be honest, people. Do you want to go abroad, or you just like the idea of going abroad? Do you just like talking about going abroad? Because if you really want to go abroad, then you need to start now and, like, let's get started. I'm not a talker. That's the thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
let's just go ahead and do it. So let me actually go back though.
Mm.
I want you to talk about your experience working in Australia
Yeah.
and maybe compare and contrast the work culture you experienced
Sure.
there.
Definitely. And so so construction, let's just say, like, we'll start with that, is a beast. I feel like regardless of what country you're in. But I wasn't sure, right, what that was going to be like. And so I I had to learn the metric system. That was, a part of it that was, different for me. I had to really understand different terminology because they literally, there were different words to say the same thing. So was at first feeling like I was appearing like I was a novice in some ways, only because of the like vernacular being different. So instead of like, I don't know, not like flat strap, in and to be able to support something in the wall, they would say like noggins. Or, if there was, I don't know, they were just like literally different words that were being used for things. And I would just, I'd almost have to like raise my hand and be like, I'm having an American moment. It's not that I don't understand construction wise what's going on. Like, that word is just really not. So I found people that I was comfortable asking those things of, and so, like, yeah, I had to learn almost like this hidden language. And but then also be honest when I didn't know something about it, because I had to lead teams of people, and I didn't want, the wrong thing to be installed on a site. Culturally, I found that it was definitely more, people enjoy their life a bit more. So I wasn't working nearly the insane hours that I was working while I was in the States. I refused to work on weekends, so that's why I said I got on the side of business that that was not a necessity. I yeah, like we were able to take off like a month at a time, because it's vacation is just or holidaying is just a lot more flexible in Australia, and they also understand, well, even before COVID, right, that Australia is far. So when people go, they go, for a period of time and kind of make it worth it. Um, and so yeah, I've been finding then my living being in UX design, and I really can't compare that to my time in the States of how that would be. But as an industry change for me, it's been people are like, happy to be in their job. They are open and expressive and are welcoming. And for me, that was really quite a different space. And to see people so happy in their job. And I was like, wait, is this a thing? Like, and so yeah, that really drew me, was one of the draws, right, to the industry. And so I'd say, yeah, like there's definitely more balance here between life and work. And yeah, people definitely enjoy enjoy nature. They get out, and yeah. But like I said, the things that I had to be aware of was really language, any different codes, building codes, whatever like that. I just had to be aware of. I was also now doing this on behalf of the Australian government, state government. So I had to learn the politics, literally the politics in terms of government politics, but the politics of construction, I guess as well. So yeah, just keeping out for it for that. And I had to do that from like a different side of the business. So I had to being a representative of the Australian government was definitely a very different perspective from being like a regular general contractor. So yeah, that was probably the things that stuck out most.
So let's go over some of the common mistakes you see people make when trying to either get a job abroad or to transition their career while they're abroad. Like, what
Yeah,
are some of the common mistakes you see?
yeah. So I feel like people are going like straight to going to a job board, right? Like,
Mhm.
so I'm just like, okay, because I asked people like, oh, what have you been doing so far? They're like, well, I've been applying. And I was like, all right, okay, like let's take a couple of steps back. Like because like even in the program, like we're not applying until like a lot later in the 8 weeks, because there's a lot of that pre-work that needs to go on beforehand. So like I take that time back and I'm like, okay, like how is your networking going? What does your network look like? What does your collateral look like? What are you putting in as search terms? How are you searching? Like, are you getting things coming to you like automatically? Are you reaching out to people? Are you plugged into that hidden job market? Like, did you figure out, like I said, what skills and strengths you actually want to be using? Like, did you do all of this pre-work, I guess, beforehand, before you just like plop yourself on um, a job board? And so I also think that people are maybe not looking at all of the expanses of ways that they can like streams that they can find out about jobs. And so I said job boards is one, but also except this hidden job market, and being able to kind of get plugged in that way, setting up these alerts that things are coming to you, really just telling other folks, like being loud about it. And so like they can also be like your eyes and ears. Like it is a multi-pronged approach. Really being proactive, like finding a job is a job.
Mm.
And so it is a treatment to treat it like that and have a schedule, right, for how your day is going to be, like, so that you maintain in that way. What we're doing in that first week, even with the program, is, and you start to speak about this a bit, it's just getting emotionally, mentally, physically prepared, because it's a journey that you're about to embark on, right? So like, how is it that we are able to like get those together? Because there are going to be moments and dips and times where you're just like want to flip the table and be done with this, right? And it takes people out of the game. Like they just that causes inaction. They get concerned with that. But then also that financial preparedness, right? Like I feel like some people jump or want to jump and they don't have their money together. And so that is, something that we work with people like kind of in the program as well. Like that's week two. So like, week one's getting your mental together, week two's getting your money together, and then we can start, talking about your skills and your strengths, and then we can start, reaching out to people, and then only that after that, like, don't. I see people also trying to run into like being like, oh, I need to get a degree in this, and I need to get extra certificate. I'm like, but do you know that yet for sure? Like, did you actually start talking to people? Do you know if you really need to go back for a bachelor's, or is a 3-month boot camp going to be enough for you? Right. And so like they're either rushing to get something that they may not actually need, or that is daunting for them, and that keeps them away from something. And it's just like, don't start applying for things yet until you actually find, like, applying, for, like I said, a another program or something like that to upskill, until you actually know if it's needed and what type of things are actually, needed, that's recommended or recognized in the field. um, I see people just believing even that it's, that they can't start leaping and commit to that leap, right? Well, first of all, I think committing is like the first step, right? Like, even if you don't exactly know what you want your change to be, but the fact that you know that you want to make a change is like, and saying like, yes, I will, stick the recommitment that happens, right? When things are getting a bit rough, I think is always the first step, right? So once you're like, yep, I got this, and I'm gonna power through, right? I still feel like I see people feeling like they can't start leaping until they're certain about, how to leap and what they want that outcome to be, and are really concerned about what if it doesn't work out, and so they end up staying in what I call the known zone, and missing out, and never leaping and starting in the first place. And so the known zone is often, I think, is mistaken for the comfort zone, and they're not the same, right? Because people are often like say that it's my comfort zone, but they're actually quite uncomfortable in it. And so I'm just like, but really, that's your known zone, And so, is it really your comfort zone? And so, really, look, I encourage people to, how I combat that is that, like, no one started off with absolute certainty about, what new venture they were going to undertake. Right, they showed up, they figured it out, they, did that, and I really believe that confidence comes from doing, and really, at worst, you can go back to what you were doing. Like, I'm pretty, in some capacity, I feel like, it's there, because you didn't lose the skill or the strength, to be able to do that, right? So, um, I think that that's possible. And I feel that some of the mistakes that people start to think is that it's too late to ever start. And so they just don't, altogether, right? And so they end up, either living with regret. They look at other people's lives with envy. They don't share their gifts with the world, like that kind of thing, right? Is starting to happen, right? And so I'm like, you're never too old to start and establish some new things. And even when I went through my career, upgrade masterclass, I gave some like 4 examples of people who are well known that they got to start really late in life, and um, like in their 40s, in their 50s, and some of these things that we're familiar with and that we love and thrive on wouldn't have existed if people, like, just kept thinking that, right? Like, there'd be no LinkedIn, right? If that wasn't really started by someone who did that kind of like in their mid 30s, and I think it had, like, Vera Wang didn't start. Um, Designing wedding dresses until she was 40, right? So like these are like people who are well known, that are in with products that are well known, right? So really encourage people that it really is never too late, because I do also speak to quite a few people in that Gen X, kind of in that late 40s as well, and they're just like, like, can I do it? Yes, you can. And also, like I said, that mistake was brought up before, is that thinking that they have to start from the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and that keeps them from not doing anything, right? And keeping them staying kind of where they are too. And I always bring up kind of this book that I've recently finished reading called The Big Leap, and it talks about like zones of competence, excellence, zones of genius, right? And so I feel like when people are like, I'll start from the bottom if I have to move again, and so that really they just stay in the zone of competence, right? Like, and so or potentially the zone of excellence, right? And they never just reach that other zone. And so I encourage people and tell them, like, maybe that might be like a um, a temporary lateral shift that you have to make, and maybe there might be a bit of a down, like a dip, because you're doing something new for the first time, or making that change. But it is fairly temporary. And I usually find that trajectory is usually a lot faster, because you're actually now doing something you want to do. And so I like and still on my way of making it back up to what I was making construction. But the jumps that I've been able to make in the time frame that I made them have happened so much faster than all the years that I was in construction, right? So the trajectory is definitely faster. And when we spoke earlier about being able to leverage and transfer your skills, like you're not starting from a clean slate as a professional, right? Like, and so you have to figure out like what is it that you can use to leverage um, to show that what you have is transferable and leverage not only your skill set but others around you, right? So I think those are the things that I that come up that I am starting or find from people, right? Coming up quite often as I would say mistakes, but things that kind of hold them back, that don't really have them kind of really throw themselves into it. I also, I guess I hear people feeling like they need to have a job already lined up. Like this is back and forth, I think, of I need to have a job lined up before I go. And that the only some of the ways I can really only do that is like trying to find a company that is an international company and that they will just like let me transfer. And so I don't mean to laugh at that, but I'm just like maybe they will, and if so, it'll probably be a while because they hired you to be in the country that they hired you to be in, right? And so like it is a route, but it may take a bit longer for you. Like I said, I didn't come over here with having a job first, but I had my finances in order. So I was able to support myself for that period of time. So I don't feel that you need to have a job before, like already set up. And actually, in many times, it's going to be quite difficult to be able to do that without being on the ground because they still like to see you, even in this day and age of video conference. They still like to see you. They want to know that if they call you for an interview, like, in 2 days time, you can actually show up. That you are already there. You don't have any barriers to trying to get into the country. Like, I mean, so some of that is that it's still harder to do that from outside of the country, and just being upfront about that. And so it takes even more hustle to try to do that from your home country, especially if you're not plugged in and getting into those networks, as well, like from abroad, like from your home country, and you're just relying on job boards. So you just that reliance just on job boards really is leaving it to chance. I feel like almost because you're just on the boards with everyone else. And so I think that like having those multiple ways of being able to find jobs is definitely definitely key, and being like you have to step up. Like if you're shy, unfortunately, you're gonna have to get over that really quickly. Like this is an active, being visible, is part of it. And I'm not just kind of trying to say like if you're an introvert, like good luck to you, it's not gonna work. I said it, please don't, and please don't misunderstand me with that. But you might have to put yourself out there a little bit more than would have been in your known zone. And so I'd say those things are, I guess those are top of mind, for me in terms of the conversations that I've been having with people. Oh, one more thing, that people are like, I need to get a remote job when I'm moving abroad, and it's not to say like if that is your lifestyle, like if you want like your lifestyle to be one where you can move about, that's by all means. But getting a job abroad does not necessarily have to equate to it being a remote job. Like you can still get a job in that city, wherever you're living. I guess I feel like they're almost kind of treated as if they're like one and the same. Like I'm going abroad, so I need a remote job. And so I'm just like, well, maybe would you be willing to consider, at least even in your first instance, of getting over there and being, because remote jobs is even like not as easy to get even in your home country, right? And so then it's an extra layer of stress, I feel like, that people are putting on, that it must be a remote job from the start, and that's the only way I'm going over. And so I think that is even more limiting when it's already going to be a journey. So yeah, I think that'd be the other part. And then thus, yeah, people are also only relying on job boards to find those remote jobs,
Oh yeah.
and almost forgetting that it's still no different, really, in this as a process, just because that job is remote.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Itia. You just said a word because, well, for everyone who's listening, this is Itiah Thomas. She is an incredible, incredible woman. She is an expat currently living in Australia. We are talking about making career transitions and career moves abroad. And she is talking about how she did it. If you have not heard her story, I'm actually going to put her link to her episode here because I got to plug. That's what I got to do. I'm going to plug. Listen to her episode on the Flourish and the Foreign. Oh wait, did I do it? Maybe. Oh, maybe. Okay, here we go. On the Flourish and the Foreign podcast. Um, and we're also talking about her program that she has, which is called the Career Upgrade, which is a strategic 8-week program that's going to help you not only get clear about what career you want to take abroad, but how to do it and actually do the things you need to do to make it happen. Itia just talked about remote work and how a lot of people think to go abroad, you need to work remotely. And she's completely correct. You don't have to. And also, she's completely correct when people think that you're going to find a remote job on a job board, which I think is such a racket. I'm sorry. I know there's tons and tons of remote groups and remote newsletters, and they have all these jobs. And I would love to know what is the percentage of these people getting these jobs? That's what I would love to know because it's an abyss. It's like what are you doing? Everyone's applying for it. I moved to Spain on a sabbatical to teach English for 9 months. But what I realized talking with Itia and listening and going through her career upgrade, all the strategies she employs in her program is exactly what I did. I was in Spain to teach English on a sabbatical, but I knew I wasn't going to do that forever. So I just did what I normally do, which is to talk a lot and connect with people and network. And for me, networking isn't like corny or weird. It's literally speaking to people, it's building relationships, and it's value exchange. I'm a resource in this, you're a resource in that. How can we help each other? I did that, which led me to first get my freelance writing gig, which was cool with a remote, well, it was a remote gig, obviously, but it was with a boutique web development company in DC. We had a great relationship. We worked really well together, and they knew all my other lovely skills that I had. I got to then flip that into a full time, fully remote gig to do business strategy and to do sales and marketing for them and their clients. But listen to this, guys. I did not utilize a job board at all. And I was in country. So it was like there are ways to go about this. There are strategies, but you have to work smarter and strategic. You cannot just be doing what everyone else is doing, especially if everybody else don't have a job abroad. Like doesn't make any sense. So I just want to just like really underline that. Also, I want to actually add this other story. So I had that job. It was remote. I could be a digital nomad, and I actually did do that. Not only did I live here in Spain, but I actually went to Southeast Asia for a couple months, and I realized I don't like being a digital nomad. I like being in my house. I like being in my office. I like that, and I like I still work with a time differential, but I like it being steady, and I like having that kind of structure. But that's who I am as a person, right? You don't know until you learn that. But last year, I went back into working for myself. I've been a business strategist for on and off for the past 8 years. I launched this podcast, Flourish in the Foreign, but I always kept my eye out at different opportunities here in Barcelona. But something to be, to think about is that, you have to be aware of the economy of the country that you want to work
Yeah.
in. The Spanish economy, not so strong. Also, it was the middle of the pandemic, so that was very inconvenient. But I found a really cool boutique advertising firm working in the music industry way back yonder. I used to actually work in the music industry a little bit. So I was like, this is cool. Maybe I want to do this again. And it was a LinkedIn job, right? So it was a job board. But check this, I switched up my entire resume, and it took me so a while, and I was so insecure that I waited too long. They shut down accepting job applications and resumes because they got so many. They got like 300. And so I said, "Oh my god, what am I going to do?" I did what I normally do. I said, "No, no, this is not how I'm going to go out." Since the company's here in Barcelona, I was like, I'm going to do what I was going to do in Atlanta. I roll up on people. So I went to their office. I buzzed them. I didn't know if they were going to let me in. It was going to be a whole scene being like, who is this black girl? Oh, I didn't know what it was going to be, but I rolled up on them and I was just like, and I made a thank you card because I'm very Southern. And so I made a thank you card to thank them for considering me, because even though I didn't apply through the LinkedIn portal, I like emailed some random info at whatever. And so they were like, who are you? And I was like, oh, I just applied for this job. I just wanted to thank you for considering me. And they're like, oh, come in, come in. And they were like very puzzled, and they told someone, and they told some director, and she comes in, she's like, who are you? And I say, oh, I'm Christine. I just wanted to thank you so much for even considering me for this position. I know you got so many people. And she was like, oh, oh my goodness. And she opened the thank you card. She was like, well, sit down, tell me about yourself. So I did not apply on time, folks, right? Didn't apply on time. But I was the first person interviewed for that job. How about that? And I got to
Yes.
sit down with the director, and I had to be ready to pitch myself. And I did. I pitched myself like the Dickens. I was like, let's go. I did that. They were like, I don't know, because, I didn't have recent music industry experience. But again, like Itia says, like if you're professional, like there's just some things that you do and you can do, period. And so they were like, I don't know. Which then the CEO emails me and it's like, I've heard so many great things about you. Really? Let's have a conversation. Again, this is the girl who did not apply on time. Now I'm not telling y'all not to apply on time, but I'm saying like Itia says, with these job board kind of situations, if you cannot put yourself in a position where you stand out with connection. I didn't know anyone personally, but I went out and I made a connection. There was nobody that was going to send a thank you card. One, because I'm in a completely different culture and they don't do that. So me being Southern and being like, I'm going to just be like my Southern self, and let's see if it works. If the worst thing is they're going to say, please leave. We're going to have security escort you off the premises. All right. And I would have left. I would have made a scene, but they didn't. I got the call back with the CEO. We did two callbacks because then it happened like in February of last year. And then of course COVID happened. So then we kind of kept in touch during lockdown. And in July, they were like, we really think we want to like bring you onto the team, which is great. My fatal mistake. This is my fatal mistake. We come down to the dollars and cents or the euros, and they were not. It wasn't it. It wasn't it. And me being the smart woman that I am, I understand the economy, but I also understand like you guys have some major advertisers. Like you have some really top tier luxurious companies. And I know they're not paying you on no Spanish money. So I was like, this is not going to work for me. And I had to leave. My fatal mistake was not asking about the money from the get go. Because even though it's a cool story to tell, like I made it happen, and it gives me like, the confidence to do, if I ever see a cool opportunity, be like, oh, I'm going to just finesse my way in. Always, the money is important, and it's very important to know what you're going into, because I did all of that and it was interesting and fun just for it to crumble because they were talking about some no money, like not enough. So I say that to say is that it's all about being strategic, right? I got a job offer in the midst of a pandemic, like in Spain. I don't know if y'all don't know about Spanish economy, look it up. In Spain, in Barcelona. So it's not impossible, but you have to be strategic. And like Itia said, you have to put yourself out there. I know it's maybe hard for people to understand. I'm actually an introvert. Actually a hardcore introvert. So after like I have these interviews and things like that, like I don't talk to anyone for the rest of the day. So I really don't. Like, I really don't. I'm an introvert. I'm not socially awkward, but I'm just an introvert. But you have to put yourself out there to get the things that you want. And you need to be strategic. That's why when, Itia told me that she was doing this program and she walked me through it, I was like, this is exactly what I do. And she actually had things that I didn't do. And I was like, oh, that's smart. I should have done that. Um, but it's strategic and it will get you where you want to go. Does it require effort? Duh, yes. But strategic effort actually bears fruit. Just flailing your arms around, you don't get anything, and you think it's impossible. When you see me and Itia, and it's obviously possible, it's just about you doing the necessary strategic work. So, as we kind of like wrap up, I want you to actually go through exactly like what the program is for people. I'll put the link into how people can get into that discovery call with you because let me tell you guys, another thing, I know I'm preaching to you, but hey, that's just what it is on this Saturday. Look, I need y'all to be about it. Okay? I feel like the people who gravitate to Flourish on Foreign are about it. They're not really looky loos. Like they're about cultivating a life well lived. They understand that cultivating a life well lived requires you to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty, but you want to because it's your life and you get to make it however you want it to be. Like you want to be an active participant in the creation of your life. And that's what this is about, right? A lot of times people think like, maybe someday. It never comes. Someday never comes. Your dream job and moving abroad is not Amazon Prime to you. Like it just isn't. It's not gonna happen that way.
Too good.
Does it
Too good.
require right? Does it require effort? Yes. Is it scary? Hell yes. Is immigration a pain in the ass? Yes. And I dare anyone around the world to tell me it's not because it is. Okay? It is. It ain't no country is not a pain in the ass. But the thing about living abroad is that it creates the space for you to be consciously awake to your life, to be present, and to really craft a life that you want. Yes, you could do it in your home country, but you haven't, right? Because we feel like we just feel burdened by society's expectations, assumptions, beliefs, how we have been perceived, how people, perceive us and how we just move around. The great thing about moving abroad is that you get to reinvent yourself or you get to just fully be yourself and no one is questioning you because they're just like,
Mm,
okay, foreigner, if that's what you say, all right, because I don't know different. So I say that to say is that it's not someday, okay? It's today. So, if the biggest obstacle for you has been, I don't know what to do for work abroad, this is the sign. I am the sign. We are the sign that you need to take this step today. And you need to seek counsel from people who have done what you want. Stop typing this into Facebook threads. Okay. That's why you get the crazy responses that you get. Seek counsel from people who actually have done things that you want to do. That's when you actually get vital information that can take you to the next level. And the great thing is that not only does ITEA have an abundance of like free information, she's done, podcast episodes and everything else like that out there, but she actually has an amazing program for you to actually transform the next step of your life, for you to actually step into that chapter. It just is what it is. And the great thing is that she is giving you the free discovery call so that you guys can talk more about it and see where you are and where you want to go. And I'm going to put the link to it in the comments. But I just want to underline that, okay? Because cultivating a life well lived is not just getting off the plane with your arms out and being like, I'm here. No, it's not how it happens. Again, maybe if you're independently wealthy, perhaps, but for everybody else, no. It requires a sense of intentionality and also some effort. But I mean, again, it is your life. Like you may want to be a participant in it. So, Itia, you go through. what the career upgrade looks like, maybe week by week, and what people can expect from it.
Definitely, definitely. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Christine. Um, Before I jump right into that, I just wanted to piggyback off of the story that you shared about showing up and being present, right? And using, like that you culturally from being from the South, that was something that was normal, that wouldn't have been normal there. So, and that got attention. And that when you ask me culturally, how is Australia different and working here? Um, and in the States, like there's the proactiveness that I tend to have in the States, and particularly being from New York and being out there and saying hi and really going for something is not something that is done very much here. So people just slink back a bit more. And so it's like to actually show up, be present, ask for what you want, um, and be aware of what your surroundings are and what your market is like, right? So awareness, right? But like just being that one step, kind of like I said, more in that and being proactive will truly get you on the radar. And people are like shocked, surprised, impressed by that. Where other people are just like, oh, like it would be too. I can't do that. Like it's too much. They didn't ask for that. Like I can't. And you just would be missed. You'll be missed, looked over. So definitely wanted to piggyback on that, and I think that is awesome. And it has been a way that's been able to, like I said, help me remove my do the negotiation for myself and remove the recruiter. Okay, so getting into what the program is, right? And so it said in 60 days, I'm helping aspiring expats aged 30 plus who are unsure about how they can start over professionally to fund their life abroad to really learn this proven process. So something that can be done over and over again, repeatable, right? To confidently complete their leap into a new job or career. So you can feel financially secure about international move, transition with certainty without starting from the bottom, and find enjoyable work that really aligns with how and where you desire to live, right? So that is holistically like what the goal is of the career upgrade program. So what it includes is the course itself, community and coaching. So course itself, like we're meeting live 1 hour a week for over those 8 weeks to really go through my roadmap. So I tell you the 5 hour framework, and where I'm delivering content, answering questions, providing the week's leap work. It's not homework. It's leap work. And so, because the company is leaping for change, right? Is my company name, and like I said, the career upgrade program is the program that's being offered under it, right? And so there's a private Facebook community for participants to share their progress, to and build a network as well, right? As we're talking about these key people of influence, these people could be also, in the program, could also be doing something you want to do, or have connections within, right? And that's where questions are being asked and like I said, progress is being shared. And then you get coaching from me during the calls as well as during our time in between the sessions in the Facebook group. And so that's there's templates as well, scripts, infographics, some of the pre-recorded trainings that I've done as well. So that's all going to be available as bonuses. So just to kind of quickly take you through like one of what's happening on a week to week. First week, where we're really spending that time being getting a more clear vision of what a fulfilled and aligned lifestyle looks like, and really understanding kind of the mindset that one has to assume, I guess, to prepare for dips that might come along the way in this process, where it's so that you are able to stay with it, and identify and build support around yourself, right? So this is where we're dealing with the mental, physical, emotional, being prepared for the journey in that way. By week two, this was just a bonus, but I've actually brought it into week two and brought it into the program and actually established it as a week, and that is to be able to get financially prepared. So we will go through the ways that I've been able to save $70,000 US 3 times
What?
over
70,000?
yeah, it's like 3 times over 6 years, right? It's like threes every time. So like we're gonna go through what that process was like. So like if people have like I said, that financial preparedness, it gives them a lot more leeway to be able to move around, and not just accept any like the first offer that comes. So If that alone, like I said, is not worth the program. And so if that alone, I mean, it's you getting that, like I said, not just as a bonus, but even brought in. And so then by week 3, we're getting really clear on the skills and strengths that you have that you still want to use. So that for me is the second peg. So the first peg is and when I say peg, I mean a frame of reference before we even start looking for your job. So the first one is being able to set kind of your goals and position your career within it. And then next is about getting clear on those strengths and skills, and a walkthrough methods to be able to do that. And the reason is because people are like, feeling, they're just, a lot of people that I talk to are feeling unfulfilled and unsatisfied in their jobs. And I want to make sure that we're starting from a base of being like, if you start with knowing what a fulfilled and aligned life looks like and the skills and strengths you still want to use as your base, like that's your filter from which you're looking at jobs and industries and roles for you. So there is off the bat a greater chance of satisfaction just because you are in alignment with what you're wanting. By week 4, that's when we're really exploring industries and roles that are most aligned to those goals, strengths, and skills, and really getting knowledgeable about them in what I call desktop research. So basically, either reading things online or offline. By the 5th week, that's when we're actually getting out of the building, is what we call it in UX design, GOB. Is basically you're talking to people, right? So that's when you're building a relevant network and really understanding, like tapping into people who have done what you want to do or are currently like kind of in those roles. And that way you can get a firsthand account from them as about breaking into the industry, the day-to-day, what it takes to succeed, and you're really getting on those radar of those key people of influence early. And so they can maybe bring you into that hidden job market, keep you in mind for things that come across their radar, and actually become then an advocate for you. By week 6, that's when we're talking about whatever upskilling that you might need to do that's relevant for the kinds of roles that you're going after, and getting your collateral in order in that way, like just how you're going to outwardly present yourself to represent your abilities. And so like there's feedback. It goes along with that, but like I said, it's only at that point, right, that we're thinking about maybe what potential other skills you might need, right? Because you've already spoken to people, you've already done your research, you've narrowed things down. You're making one of the reasons you're also talking to people is to make sure you still actually want to be in the career or a role, or that you've been researching because you thought maybe it was great. Like I thought I wanted to be architect, and I started talking to architects and I was like, nope, thank you. But like I found that out before, and this is all before you actually even make the transition, right? Because you're just doing this research and you're not kind of like getting knee deep, like 2 years into a 4-year program and realizing this is not what you want to do. So yeah, and then by week 7, we're talking about job search methods, tracking and performance of your job search. The project manager in me tracks things, and so you want to know how your collateral is performing, basically how you're preparing for interviews, and how to manage those rejections. So we'll also be like we started to figure that out from week 1 about how to get mentally, physically, emotionally prepared, and that's going to be coming up in practice, because this is the part where people like lose esteem as they're starting to actually apply for jobs. So in this week, we're doing that job application process, but in that more strategic way. And then by that last week, it's about choosing a job that's right for you, that you're comfortable with, going through the negotiations for that, and talking about life after landing the job so that you can be stabilized for your particularly first 3 months or so, which is usually where things get a bit helter-skelter. And so that's like I said, it's taking people from that full journey, that full arc of not knowing what they want their career or job change to be, to actually talking about like how they can then thrive in it. So yeah, that's the whole program laid out.
I think it is wonderful. For those of you who've been watching, you guys know how awesome this is. This is Itiah Thomas of Leaping for Change. We're talking about career transitions, how to do so if you want to go abroad or you're already abroad. So we've gone through her story of how she went from San Francisco to Australia, from thinking she's going to do one visa to another, going back into her career field as a project manager in construction, to then doing a career transition into UX design, and not starting from the bottom, because no. And being able to negotiate not only salary but also residency, y'all. Itia is practically a dual citizen. I think you just have to get sworn in. Is that
Yes.
it?
Yep. Yep. I'm waiting for my date.
Okay.
But it's all approved. Everything else is approved. It just has to be official with the flag, you know.
So, I mean, if you have dreams of going abroad, securing residency, being professionally fulfilled, being financially not only stable, but abundant, and being able to live a life in which you just feel good, because I feel like those are kind of like one of those foundational aspects to thriving abroad. Mental wellness and all these other things are so important, but I find, especially if we're American, our mental wellness is tied a lot to our financial wellness and our professional wellness, and so we need to get those things right. So if you've been listening, if you've catch the tail end of this, I highly recommend you to watch the replay, listen to it, listen to her just gems about going abroad, like especially about the hidden market. Like I don't know if you guys really caught that, but if you've ever applied for a job, you realize there's a hidden market, because they will maybe post a job, but then it's like an internal or somebody's friend. That's an internal job market. How do you tap in? You got to know, like Itia said, the key members or key people of influence. That's networking. Like you got to know, you got to show up for these things. It's so critical. And your whole job search will change when you start implementing these key strategic moves. Like things will just work differently for you, and you'll be perceived differently. You're not, you'll be perceived a lot differently. You'll be actually perceived like the expert, like the authority that you are, instead of just one out of hundreds and hundreds of people who are just submitting their resume. So, if you want to get in touch with ITEA, which I highly recommend you do, because the cohort for the career upgrade is the doors are closing February 21st. So that is very soon. So, like,
Yeah.
let's not do this like fence thing. Okay, guys?
Yeah.
Like, let's not do
We're actually
it.
starting on the 21st, right? So the doors are closing,
Right?
right? The doors are closing. For people who are watching this, I'm closing them for everyone else on the 17th, but because I love Christine and the community that she has, I'll keep them over for 2 more days. So further than that, so the 19th, I'll give you to the 19th to get your lives together. But that means that you need to have the call beforehand and enroll beforehand because we start promptly on time. That's the project manager and me. We're starting on the 21st.
But see, that's the thing. Like, too many people, they put things off because they're like, oh, I'm not ready. You're never going to be ready. And this is literally a process that's going to get you ready. Like, I don't ever understand this. Like, do you think it's February, people? It's February. Do you think that somehow whatever you think you need to do is going to make you ready? When? In May? In October? In November? When like when? Or when something catastrophic happens in the world and you're like, "Oh wait." Like I think with 2020 occurring, and if you're American, with like the past however many years occurring, that is the wake up call. Like I can't express that enough. It At this point, it's important for you to be serious with yourself. Either you want to go abroad or you don't. Stop saying that you do if you actually don't really want to. Okay, that's all I gotta say. It's cool. Listen to the podcast, but like, don't post and don't do these kinds of things when you're actually not really serious about it, because there is so many resources. There's so many cool and amazing people that will actually get you where you want to go. Really think about, maybe the obstacle is not about actually getting the job abroad. Maybe the obstacle is you. Like how people have fear of success. It's not really a fear of failure, it's a fear of success. Like, what will actually happen if I get a job and I'm going to go abroad? My whole life is going to change. Yes, it is. So, not to be a therapist, because I'm not a therapist, but like, let's consider that. Maybe that's what's going on with some of y'all. And I'm saying, Work through it by actually respecting your dreams. Work through it by respecting yourself and your self worth and your time. Instead of wasting your time, wringing your hands, doing stuff that's never going to get you to where you're trying to go, be serious with yourself and honest with yourself. Do some mirror work. Look yourself in the eye in the mirror and say, do I want to go abroad? Am I afraid? It's okay to be afraid. Okay.
Yeah.
Like fear, feel it. And you're still going to do it. And there's probably not going to be a moment in which you're not feeling fear. But at some point, you have to just say, am I wasting my time? Like, am I wasting my life? Am I doing things that are never going to get me to where I want to go just to look busy, just to look like I'm doing something, just to say,
Mm.
oh, I want to move abroad. I want to move abroad. Like, let's be serious for real. Let's just be serious. If you just think moving abroad is cool and it's a cool concept, great. But if you really want to make it happen, stop playing with yourself and your time, because I think what 2020 has shown us that, goodness, time is not promised. What you think could happen tomorrow can get upended and it won't return back to normal forever. Like it's over. There's no more. It's literally pre February 2020 and the rest of eternity. Okay. So let's be serious. Take just, I just want you to honor your dreams, honor and respect your dreams. Be willing to invest in yourself and in your life, which requires you to be afraid and do it anyway, right? Don't waste your time because it's not promised. So if you want to go abroad and you want to take your career abroad, you need to go ahead and sign up right now. Stop thinking about it. Sign up with Itiah for the free discovery call.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, relax, people. It's a free discovery call. But sign up and actually get to know if this is the right program for you, if you guys jive, and what this looks like. Take this step for yourself. Like, honor yourself, respect yourself enough to say, hey, I'm interested in this, and I'm not going to make up any more excuses. I'm just going to tell myself yes, and we're going to see how it goes and see how it unfolds. Maybe it'll be supercharged and you'll be gone in 6 months. Maybe it'll give you an amazing, amazing framework that's going to launch you in 18 months. But you don't know unless you actually participate and you actually engage and you actually take that step. It's not an intellectual like exercise. It's an active participant. Like, you got to get in the game. So I'm gonna get off my high horse or my preacher or whatever, my soapbox, just because I'm gonna come to you real. Like, that's just what it is. That's how I feel about it. Okay. I just want to thank you, Itiah, so much for taking the time.
Yeah.
I want to look through these questions, see if I have any questions. Hello. Oh, Benjamin from Germany. Hi, Benjamin from Germany, if you're still here. Oh, Sophia. Hello, Sophia. Yay. Sophia was also a past podcast guest. She is currently in Barbados. What else do we
Awesome.
have? Sophia saying that's incredible. Yes. Krishan. Hey, Krishan of Blacksit Global. Um, Blacksit Global podcast. I'm trying to get that right. Sorry. Um, Someday is not a day of the week. And that's right, Krishan. You know, she knows.
Yes.
Um, Sophia saying, yes, immigration is a pain in the ass for sure. Okay. People try to say, oh, I'm not ready. Especially, let's just even talk about, put job to the side, immigration.
Yeah.
Start now. Start now with immigration. Are you
Never too
joking?
early. It's never too early. And like I said, have multiple options. It had one, two, three, 4 options of visa stuff, and it was the third one that got me through, right? And so, yeah, just have options.
Have options and start now. There's literally no, you're not going to start too early. It's just not how it happens when moving abroad or living abroad. I put the link to the free discovery in the comments. I'll put it also in the description. I think I need to add that there. But again, Itiah, out of the kindness of our heart, is going to extend it just a little bit for y'all. So make the move, y'all. And guess what? Also, I don't want to hear you guys. Don't DM me or email me after this is cut off and then ask about it. I'm gonna say that too, because I don't want to hear it. Because I told y'all to do what you're supposed to do. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Itia, thank you so much for staying up late to chat with me. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much for just being so generous with your time and your knowledge, because again, there's so much bad knowledge out there that we need the good knowledge. We need to put the good knowledge on the platforms, people can see it and they can get something from it. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone for joining us today. That is it for this live stream. Again, I'm Christine Job of Flourish in the Foreign, which is a podcast. If you don't know, you should check out the podcast. You can find it. You can find out more information about it at www.flourishintheforeign.com. You can support the podcast by becoming a Patreon, cash apping, and everything, and sharing the podcast and sharing this video too across social media, because a lot of people need to hear this information, because a lot of people are going about it wrong. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That is
Yes.
it for me. Itia, do you have any last words for us?
Yeah, I do. I do. So not only am I going to extend it to the 19th to be able to jump on a call with me, but if you have a call with me and enroll by then um, and pay in full, then I'm going to offer myself to be your career concierge. And so basically that means you'll get have me as your extra set of eyes to be able to whenever I'm seeing like job postings, I can send that your way if that's relevant, any extra information that I'm seeing that's relevant, be able to help promote you to my network. That's an international network of folks that are genuinely friends of mine. Even literally as late as 2 days ago, I was talking to a friend and who was hiring, and she was just talking to a previous friend of mine, and I was like, oh, did she mention to you that she was looking for a job? And she says, oh no, she didn't. And I was like, and that she needs sponsorship, and she's like, oh, she didn't say anything about that. So in like literally 1 minute of a conversation that I had with my friend who was hiring, I was able to get my other friend to like present to her in front of her, right? So that's just the power of what it can be like to have someone like usher you into the front of the line for something. So I'm offering to be that for you as well. So, but that means that that's a fast action bonus, and that fast action is not only booking that call by the 19th, like I said, I'll extend it, but also then being able to enroll and I'm paying for in that. So that's my extra bonus that I'll throw in there for the community.
And that's amazing, because Itia's network is not just in construction or UX. She's an entrepreneur, which we didn't even get into all of your
Yes.
entrepreneurial things. Listen to the podcast for it. So when you listen to the podcast and you hear all of her entrepreneurial endeavors, you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, Itia's network is deep. I don't know how else, like, if y'all not convinced, that's because y'all don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, I will let you go, Itia. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for being a wonderful guest. Thank you all so
Awesome.
much for tuning in. If you have any comments or suggestions, put them in the description or in the comments below, and I will check them out. All right. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.